Welcome back to the show. And in this segment, we're going to talk about issues with real estate beginners. Now, this is going to be a loaded topic, and I want to warn you that this is going to get long because we have a lot to say about the subject matter. So we're going to try to break it up a little bit, but we do have a lot to say. And Wes, over the 10 years, and having, wouldn't you say that we've seen our fair share of real estate beginners?
Absolutely.
They call us, they email us, they meet us, we meet them. Some, they just come from all over the place. Word kind of gets out.
Right.
We've traveled, so, and as we've matured, we kind of see more and more of the beginners because we're less and less of a beginner.
Right.
And of course, this is not meant to be, if you're watching this and you're a real estate beginner, the whole point of this segment is to educate you. All right? It is not to be insulting or condescending or anything, but I think it's very important that they get the honest truth of what we're thinking, and so that you can work on, you can take what we're saying and perhaps use it in your own life. So I'm going to put it over to you, Wes, about what the real estate beginners go through. What are the issues that come to your mind when you think about real estate beginners? I mean, what's the burning thing?
Probably, I guess, the burning thing that I see the most is that people get too involved with the information, and part of what's fulfilling them is learning the information. And I can get that. I can understand that. Whether you go to meetings or you're reading books or you're going to courses, but you cannot get analysis paralysis by just taking in the information. And what I find too often is that people, they're taking in the information, but they don't know what to do about it. Or they're taking in all the information and they just don't know where to start. And the problem is sometimes, while you do need to think big, you do need to have a holistic view of everything that's going on, you've got to pick a starting point and something that you can realistically start on and do. And that's the problem that I see, is they can take in the information, they have the knowledge, but they don't have a starting point.
So, if I understand you correctly, there's a couple of issues going on. They don't know where to start. Of course, the question always comes up, how do you start, too?
Right.
But you're also saying that there is an analysis paralysis thing.
Absolutely.
They're just like deer in headlight.
Right.
The more information they get, the more paralyzed they get.
And
sometimes.
you have to filter the information. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, whether you're going to a local meeting or something, you've got to be able to filter the information and say what is pertinent to what I need to know and what's not. And that's the first thing. You've got to be smart enough. I'm just going to flat out say you've got to be smart enough to filter the information. If you can't filter it, that's what I was doing when I met Matt and I first started going to the meetings. I was filtering the information. Okay, what do I need to know now, and what do I need to log away for 5 years down the road when I have 10 houses?
But how do you filter? Okay, let's get your perspective on it. How do you filter? How do you know what to listen to, what not to listen to, in your point of view?
It's kind of like an analogy I know you've given me before. It's kind of like when you get up to drive to work. You don't get up and say, okay, I'm going to wait for every single green light between here and work to be green before I start off. I just need to know when. I'm just going to worry about the red light when I get to the first one, and then I'll go from there. So, as you're taking in the information, if we're talking about residential houses, well, the first thing you have to do is buy one. That's where it starts. So you have to figure out, are you going to buy one conventionally, or are you going to buy one owner financed, or are you kind of open to all of that? And then from there, you got to get some deal flow. Start taking in some deals. Don't worry about renting. Don't worry about marketing. Don't worry about fix up and stuff like that. Those are things you kind of log back.
Well, at the risk of, I'm not trying to be a psychologist here, but there is a certain amount of psychology that goes in there.
Yes.
And based on what you're talking about, what I find is it's fear-based.
It is.
It's a fear. Now, what do you think they're fearful of?
The unknown.
You think it's the unknown?
I think it's the unknown. It's the fear of, okay, well, if I take that first step, if I'm successful, then what's going to happen? I may not understand the next two, but you bet your butt that when you buy that house and you're making that vacant payment, if you don't understand marketing, you'll learn it then.
Well,
when that first payment comes, or when you paid 6 months of vacancy on that thing, you can bet you're going to learn some marketing.
Well, it's funny you said the fear of the unknown. And, I was actually thinking they're going to fear losing money. But But you know, I can't disagree with you. I mean, the unknown paralyzes people.
It paralyzes you, and you're going to lose money. I mean, if you're losing time, I mean, people say time is money. So you know, I've literally known people for 8 to 10 years who are still processing information. And so when I think about the deals I've done, and I think about the deals they've done, I'm like, how much money have they lost?
Yeah, or even experience, really.
Experience, money, time, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's been several people of our mentors that say, you know, time is your biggest asset. And in real estate, that can be true, because unless you're paying with cash, you got to have time to pay down those mortgages. So no time.
Well, I'm a big believer in learning as you go. I mean, I don't agree on necessarily jumping into the deep end of the pool.
No.
But I do believe that once you get a certain amount of tools, you've got to get going. And you know, and I'm in agreement with buying, but you know, there's so many things that people can do. I think. I mean, they can look at property, get educated, but you know, they can actually start aligning things up. But a lot of people, I think, they just kind of get stuck after a certain point,
right?
And they just can't seem to break through. I mean, what do you say to these people? I mean, or is it just a perpetual problem that we're forever going to deal with?
I guess some people, you know, some people have it and some people don't. And I guess...
Oh, that's a mean thing to say.
I don't
that's
care.
a mean thing to say. Some people got it, some people... So how do those people know they don't got it? They should just get out of the game. Don't even try, right? Give up, go home, go to bed.
Yes, give up, go home, go to bed. Yes, absolutely. I mean, yeah, what else are you going to do? I mean, if you've invested more than 5 years of your life in buying a residential house and you haven't done it, do something else.
See, people always think I'm the mean one. And people always think I'm the mean one. And who's the ruthless one? He says, go home, go to bed.
Yeah.
Just give it up.
Give it up. Give it up. I mean, seriously. You know, and I would tell you, either give it up or do something. And I'm all for helping you do something. But, you know, it doesn't... I mean, if I was 24 years old and I barely knew how to run a rent payment on a calculator, and I was able to, you know, buy a house... You know, I mean, I didn't have the best credit at 24 years old. I mean, I didn't have, you know, any money, I don't think. I don't even really remember. But, you know, so, I mean, yeah, I'm going to have a little sympathy for, you know, if you're in a better situation that I was in, and you can't, if, you know, there again, if you can't filter the information and find a starting point, find something you can be successful at, then it's time to do something else.
Well, investing is really about risk. I mean, you do have to take a risk. This is not called a real estate guarantees, right? I mean, we're talking investing. So there is a chance that you will lose or things will not go your way. I do agree that education is very important.
It is very important. You know, both you and I invested in our education, you know, in the beginning, and we still do. So.
Yes, and sometimes you just learn in the school of hard knocks. You just got to be out there.
Yeah.
But before we go further, let's take a break, and we'll come back and we'll discuss more on real estate beginners. Welcome back from the break. So in the last segment, we started off and talked about real estate beginners and how people get paralyzed. Now, I want to in this segment talk about, you know, drill in a little bit further about what they're all wound up about. Now, I think one of them is you kind of touched on. They focus on minutia. And so you went to a meeting recently, and tell me about that meeting. What happened at that meeting?
Well, it was a meeting that, you know, we've been to, I guess, 5 or 6 or 8 years ago, and a buddy of mine still goes, and, you know, he's a personal friend outside of the real estate world, and so he was like, you know, hey, Wes, you know, you need to come back to the meeting. I want you to come back, and obviously he knows what kind of, you know, what I've done since I've been there 8 years ago, and so, you know, he kind of wanted me to come, so I went, and it was kind of fun. I was expecting to see all new faces when I went. As far, you know, I mean, like just a whole new group. And what I kind of found was that 50 to 60% of the group were the same people. The same people who, they knew me when I didn't have a house, and I knew them when they didn't have a house.
Yeah.
And the difference is, 8 years down the road, obviously we're managing a portfolio of houses, and they're still talking about a few deals. You know, and I just kind of sat back quiet in the back of the room, and I didn't even know what to say. I mean, I really didn't.
Well, you know, to be fair, as far as I know a lot of the people that you're talking about, and they do have some property.
They do.
They are in the game.
Yes.
But they seem to have plateaued very quickly. I mean, they got to a certain point, and that's about it. and they just keep talking,
or maybe
they come every month,
right? Or maybe they just have a different game plan than I had. I mean, I'm not saying you have to go gangbusters if you decide to have a real estate career. That's not at all what I'm saying. It may be, you know, there again, maybe they have just a different game plan. But you know, to me, if you want to do anything in real estate, I mean, having one house or two houses at a time, or I guess if you flip, you generally only have one or two houses at a time. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's just a difference in philosophy. Maybe like I say, maybe my philosophy and their philosophy is just two completely different things, and you know, I just don't understand theirs. But I don't have to. But I think. But if you were to ask me if I think that they want to do more, I would think that they do. I
think fundamentally they do want to do more,
right.
But they're stuck, and they've been stuck for years.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I guess they're waiting for more information.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're asking how does that help you, because obviously you're the one that's watching the video. So as far as, you know, what I would say is, you know, if you've gotten started, be willing, be open to different ways of changing your business model to make it better than the average Joe. And I'll just give an example, since we're talking this right out of the gate. When I started buying, the very first house that I bought was conventional. It was an FHA loan, very easy, you know, very easy to do. But I obviously knew how many houses could I qualify for in my name.
Exactly.
That might be a question that many of you ask. So one thing that Matt brought into the partnership was he was buying houses subject to, and that's a whole new argument. But look at other ways that you can buy. And so I knew that buying with my own money and my own credit, I knew that was going to be very limiting. And so I was open to what's another option that I can merge these two together and put this thing on steroids and shoot it up faster.
Yeah, I mean, early on, I definitely realized that the ability to qualify was going to be a huge issue.
Right.
So even though, to be honest with you, I mean, I didn't have a specific love to buy this. It was just I didn't see any way around it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had to deal with the financing issue.
Right.
I mean, there was only so many I could qualify for, so I had to learn how to partner up.
Right.
Which is one thing that I'm a big believer in.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it worked for us.
Yeah.
And I'm also a big believer in using seller financing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and obviously it has worked for us too.
Right.
But that did take a lot of determination and focus. And yes, there was a lot of unknowns, but, you know, which leads me to believe, you know, a lot of people doubt. They have all these nagging doubts. Is this true? Can it be done? Will anybody ever listen? And what I found, Wes, is a lot of people can't get out of themselves. Mm-hmm. They cannot say, you know what, yes, we may disagree with them, but they think that way. They
right.
don't think like we do. Does that
right.
make sense?
Right.
And yet we do it all the time. I mean, people, even to this day, we have one of our guys, he sold us 4 houses. He's still got like 6 houses he would love for us to buy.
Right.
He's practically giving us our own terms. Mm-hmm. And the problem we have is we're just loaded up.
Yeah. I mean, and we're all guilty of, you know, being limited by our beliefs. I mean,
yes,
I'm guilty
absolutely.
of it as of now. I mean, even because I'm always looking through, and I'm always looking, okay, well, what do I want to do? And I'm always sometimes thinking, well, you know, Wes, are you worthy of doing that? I mean, or are you capable? Are you smart enough? So
yeah.
I do that myself. So I know you guys do it. So just because you may think somebody won't sign you over a house without you qualifying, that's not just realize that your beliefs are not, you know, always true. I mean, they may be true to you, but they might not be true to someone else.
And you know, another thing that that people seem to can't get over is they want surefire success. They expect to hit a home run on every swing.
Right.
How many deals do you have to look through to find a good deal? How many people do you got to talk to for that one seller finance deal? People can't get their heads wrapped around that.
Right.
They want every contact to be a sure thing, and it doesn't work that way.
It's not going to happen that way. And if you look, you know, use the analogy of looking at a ball game. If you're playing one ball team that has a whole team members of guys that hit home runs, or one ball team of all the guys that hit, you know, first or singles and doubles and things like that, those guys that hit singles and doubles, they will win the game above the guys who can just hit a home run every now and then. And so, yeah, exactly. If you don't now, as you get more deals, you can be more pickier. You can
Absolutely.
say that deal's not good enough for me now. And I mean, I'm of that way. Now, I've got some deals that I wish I didn't buy, you know, years ago. But you know, you have them and you can't get rid of them, and you make the best of them. So, But in the beginning, you're not going to know exactly maybe which deals are perfect for you, which deals are home runs for you. So if it's a good deal for you today, it's probably good enough if it works, for you. And so take it down. You can worry about it later. And I always tell people, if you buy a house right, yes, especially in the market we're in as of the date of this video, it's very tough to sell it. But if you buy it right and it turns out to be a loser, hopefully you could at least sell it to an investor later for a break even and get out of it. It doesn't mean you have to be married to it forever.
Wes brings up a lot of great points, and in the episodes to come, we are going to be drilling down on individual topics that if you're a real estate investor beginner, you're going to definitely want to tune in and listen to some of the tools and techniques and strategies we're going to talk about to alleviate this analysis paralysis. But we're not going to give you too much data because at the end of the day, you're still going to have to take action. So thank you for joining us on our pilot episode of the TurnKey Investor Show, and tune in to the next show where we're going to have more segments and more interesting information for you. Thank you.